Hello, hello. Hi, hi, hi. Hi, hi, hi. Um, so I think what we'll do is, since I'm so ready to go to bed again, I'm just gonna read the story and probably bounce, if that's cool with you. I had to switch up the story. I had to switch up the story because originally I was going to read a story called Hans and Luck, but I needed to switch it to another one that you probably recognize called Rapunzel. You probably recognize Rapunzel. Allow me to mute everything around me so you don't wake up. Nothing bad happens. Alright. No, that's alright. So let's read Rapunzel, shall we? Oh my goodness, that's so bright. Let me mute to see if I can get my reading voice on. Because I just woke up. Okay, I think I got the voice that I want to read down. Alright, tell me if this is comfy for you. Also, let me move you guys over here because I can't see you. Okay. This is Rapunzel. There once was a man and a woman who long in vain wished for a child. At length the woman hoped that God was about to grant her desire. These people had a little window at the back of their house from which a splendid garden could be seen, which was full of the most beautiful flowers and herbs. It was, however, surrounded by a high wall, and no one dared to go into it because it belonged to an enchantress who had great power and was dreaded by all the world. One day, the woman was standing by this sorry. One day, the woman was standing by this window and looking down into the garden when she saw a bed which was planted with the most beautiful Rapunzel. And it looked so fresh and green that she longed for it. I have to copy and paste this story. Sorry to break the story. I can't read it the way it is. One sec. I need to... Apologies. The font is just so small. I need to up the font for myself. Big. Okay. Let me start from this one. One day, the woman was standing by this window and looking down into the garden when she saw a bed which was planted with the most beautiful Rapunzel, and it looked so fresh and green that she longed for it. She quite pined away and began to look pale and miserable. Then her husband was alarmed and asked, "What ails you, dear wife?" "Ah," she replied, "if I can't eat some of the Rapunzel which is in the garden behind our house, I shall die." The man, who loved her, thought, "Sooner than let your wife die, bring her some of the Rapunzel yourself, let it cost what it will." At twilight, he clambered down over the wall into the garden of the enchantress, hastily clutched a handful of Rapunzel, and took it to his wife. She at once made herself a salad of it, and ate it greedily. It tasted so good to her, so very good, that the next day she longed for it 3 times as much as before. If he was to have any rest, her husband must once more descend into the garden. In the gloom of evening, therefore, he let himself down again. But when he clambered down the wall, he was terribly afraid, for he saw the enchantress standing before him. "How can you dare," she said with an angry look, "descend into my garden and steal my Rapunzel like a thief? You shall suffer for it." "Let mercy take the place of justice. I only made up my mind to do it out of necessity. My wife saw your Rapunzel from the window and felt such a longing for it that she would have died if she... I can't even... This guy talks so weird, I'm not gonna lie. "Let mercy take the place of justice. I only made up my mind to do it out of necessity. My wife saw your Rapunzel from the window and felt such a longing for it that she would have died if she had not got some to eat." Then the enchantress allowed her anger to be softened and said to him, "If the case be as you say, I will allow you to take away with you as much Rapunzel as you will. Only I make one condition. You must give me the child which your wife will bring into this world. It shall be treated well, and I will care for it like a mother." The man in his terror consented to everything, and when the woman was brought to bed, the enchantress appeared at once, gave the child the name of Rapunzel, and took it away with her. Rapunzel grew into the most beautiful child under the sun, When she was 12 years old, the enchantress shut her into the tower, which lay in a forest, and had neither stairs nor door, but quite at the top was a little window. When the enchantress wanted to go in, she placed herself beneath it and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Rapunzel had magnificent long hair, fine as spun gold, and when she heard the voice of the enchantress, she unfastened her braided tresses, wound them round one of the hooks of the window above, and then the hair fell 20 ells down, and the enchantress climbed up by it. I'm going to get some water real fast. This isn't like some weird English, so it's taking me for a loop. Hopefully I'm not too loud or something. Let me know. Also, hello Azora, thank you for stopping by. Okay, I am back. Okay, I just wanted to drink some water real fast. I didn't die. And let me do this. Okay. I'm sorry. I won't lie, I'm still kind of just waking up. Okay. After a year or two, it came to pass that the king's son rode through the forest and passed by the tower. Then he heard a song, which was so charming that he stood still and listened. This was Rapunzel, who in her solitude passed her time in letting her sweet voice resound. Resound, I guess is the right word. The king's son wanted to climb up to her and look for the door of the tower, but none was to be found. He rode home, but the singing had so deeply touched his heart that every day he went out into the forest and listened to it. Once when he was thus standing behind a tree, he saw that an enchantress came there, and he heard how she cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair to me." Then Rapunzel let down the braids of her hair, and the enchantress climbed up her hair. "If that is the ladder by which one mounts, I too will try my fortune," said he. And the next day, when it began to grow dark, he went to the tower and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair to me." Immediately, the hair fell down, and the king's son climbed up. At first, Rapunzel was terribly frightened when a man such as her At first Rapunzel was terribly frightened when a man, such as her eyes had never yet beheld, came to her. But the king's son began to talk to quite... What? But the... Sorry, the writing is all fucked up. But the king's son had began to talk to her quite like a friend, and told her that his heart had been and told her that his heart had been so stirred that it had let him have no rest, and he had been forced to see her. Then Rapunzel lost her fear, and when he asked her if she would take him for her husband, and she saw that he was a young and handsome man, she thought, "He will love me more than old Dame Gothel does." And she said yes, and laid her hand in his. She said, "I will willingly go away with you, but I do not know how to get down. Bring with you a skein of silk every time that you come, and I will weave a ladder with it. And when that is ready, I will descend, and you will take me on your horse." They agreed that until the time he should come to... Yo, who wrote this shit? Who wrote this? They agreed that until the time he should come to her every evening, for the old woman came by day, the enchantress remarked nothing of this, until once Rapunzel said to her, "Tell me, Dame Gothel, how it happens that you are so much heavier for me to draw up than a young king's son. He is with me in a moment."
"Ah, you wicked child," cried the enchantress. "What do I hear you say? I thought I had separated you from all the world, and yet you have deceived me."
In her anger, she clutched Rapunzel's beautiful tresses, wrapped them twice around her left hand, seized a pair of scissors with the right, and snip-snap, and they were cut off, and the lovely braids lay on the ground. And she was so pitiless that she took poor Rapunzel into a desert where she had to live in great grief and misery. On the same day that she cast out Rapunzel, however, the enchantress fastened the braids of hair which she had cut off to the hook of the window, and when the king's son came and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair," she let the hair down. The king's son ascended, but instead of finding his dearest Rapunzel, he found the enchantress, who gazed at him with wicked and venomous looks.
"Aha!" she cried mockingly. "You would fetch your dearest, but the beautiful bird sits no longer singing in the nest. The cat has got it, and will scratch out your eyes as well. Rapunzel is lost to you. You will never see her again."
The king's son was beside himself with pain, and in his despair he leapt down from the tower. He escaped with his life,
but the thorns in which he fell pierced his eyes. Then he wandered quite blind about the forest, ate nothing but roots and berries, and did naught but lament and weep over the loss of his dearest wife. Thus he roamed about in misery for some years, and at length came to the desert where Rapunzel, with the twins to which she had given birth, a boy and a girl, lived in wretchedness. He heard a voice, and it seemed so familiar to him that he went towards it. And when he approached, Rapunzel knew that he went towards it. Rapunzel knew him and fell on his neck and wept. Two of her tears wetted his eyes, and they grew clear again. Ah, yes. That's how you clear blindness. And he would see with them as before. He led her to his kingdom, where he was joyfully received, and they lived for a long time afterwards, happy and contented. Not gonna lie, that kind of sucked ass. Not gonna lie, that was the whole story, by the way. That was the whole story. That was it. That was the whole story. What the fuck? Who wrote that? I want to talk. I just want to talk. Nah. Nah, this is bullshit. Sorry. Is there another story I could read you before I go? I had a story, but I don't know where it is. It was a story that I read a lot as a kid. Do I want to read another one? Yeah, because I feel not good about the last one. Because it kind of sucked and I couldn't read it very well.
Hansel and Gretel? I think we have that one. Hansel and Gretel. Alrighty, I think, yeah, let's read Hansel and Gretel then. Let's read this story. Alright. So this is Hansel and Gretel. We get a 2-story special today because Rapunzel kind of sucked. Alright. Near a great forest, there lived a poor woodcutter and his wife, and his 2 children. The boy's name was Hansel, and the girl's Gretel. They had very little to bite or to sup, and once, when there was great death in the land, the man could not gain the daily bread. As he lay in bed one night thinking of this, and turning and tossing, he sighed heavily, and said to his wife, "What will become of us? We cannot even feed our children. There is nothing left for ourselves." "I will tell you, husband," answered the wife. "We will take the children early in the morning into the forest, where it is thickest. We will make them a fire, and we will give each of them a piece of bread. Then we will go to our work and leave them alone. They will never find the way home again, and we shall be quit of them." "No, wife," said the man, "I cannot do that. I cannot find it in my heart to take my children into the forest and leave them there alone. The wild animals would soon come and devour them." "Oh, you fool," said she, "then we will all 4 starve, and you had better get the coffins ready." And she left him no peace until he consented. "But I really pity the poor children," said the man. The 2 children had not been able to sleep for hunger, and had heard what their stepmother had said to their father. Gretel wept bitterly, and said to Hansel, "It is all over with us." "Do be quiet, Gretel," said Hansel, "and do not fret. One will manage something." And when the parents had gone to sleep, he got up, put on his little coat, opened the back door, and slipped out. The moon was shining brightly, and the white flints that lay in front of the house glistened like pieces of silver. Hansel stooped and filled the little pocket of his coat, as full as it would hold. Then he went back again, and said to Gretel, "Be easy, dear little sister, and go to sleep quietly. God will not forsake us," and laid himself down again in his bed. When the day was breaking, and before the sun had risen, the wife came and awakened the 2 children, saying, "Get up, you lazy bones. We are going into the forest to cut wood." Then she gave each of them a piece of bread and said, "That is for dinner, and you must not eat it before then,
for you will get no more."
Gretel carried the bread under her apron. For Hansel, he had his pockets full of the flints. Then they set off all together on their way to the forest. When they had gone a little way, Hansel stood still and looked back towards the house. And this he did again and again, till his father said to him, "Hansel, what are you looking at? Take care to not forget your legs." "Oh, father," said Hansel, "I am looking at my little white kitten, who is sitting up on the roof to bid me goodbye." "You young fool," said the woman, "that is not your kitten, but the sunshine on the chimney pot." Of course, Hansel had not been looking at his kitten, but had been taking every now and then a flint from his pocket and dropping it on the road. When they reached the middle of the forest, the father told the children to collect wood and make a fire to keep them warm. And Hansel and Gretel gathered brushwood, enough for a little mountain, and it was set on fire. And when the flame was burning quite high, the wife said, "Now lie down by the fire and rest yourselves, you children." Let me read that again. "Now lie down by the fire and rest yourselves, you children, and we will go and cut wood. And when we are ready, we will come and fetch you." Yeah, what parents, huh? So Hansel and Gretel sat by the fire, and at noon they each ate their pieces of bread. They thought their father was in the wood all the time, as they seemed to hear the strokes of the axe, but really it was only a dry branch hanging to a withered tree, that the wind moved to and fro. So when they had stayed there a long time, their eyelids closed with weariness, and they fell fast asleep. When at last they woke, it was night, and Gretel began to cry, and said, "How shall we ever get out of this wood?" But Hansel comforted her, saying, "Wait a little longer, until the moon rises, and then we can easily find the way home." And when the full moon got up to Hansel, And when the full moon got up, Hansel took his little sister by the hand and followed the way where the flint stones shone like silver, and showed them the road. They walked on the whole night through, and at the break of day they came to their father's house. They knocked at the door, and when the wife opened it and saw that it was Hansel and Gretel, she said, "You naughty children, why did you sleep so long in the wood? We thought you were never coming home again." But the father was glad, for it had gone to his heart to leave them both in the woods alone. Not very long after that, there was again great scarcity in those parts, and the children heard their mother say at night in bed to their father, "Everything is finished up. We have only half a loaf, and after that the tale comes to an end. The children must be off. We will take them further into the woods this time, so that way they shall not be able to find their way back again. There is no other way to manage." The man felt sad
heart, and he thought, it would be better to share one's last morsel with one's children. But the wife would listen to nothing, and scolded and reproached him. He who says A must say B too. And when a man has given in once, he has to do it a second time. Wow, toxic. I've run out of water. I'm going to get some water before I finish talking about this toxic marriage. Okay. I have returned. Alright. Let me reset my model. Okay. Alright. Sorry, I accidentally closed the story. Okay, we're back. The children were not asleep and had heard all the talk. When the parents had gone to sleep, Hansel got up to go out and get more flint stones, as he did before, but the wife had locked the door, and Hansel could not get out. But he comforted his little sister and said, "Don't cry, Gretel, and go to sleep quietly, and God will help us." Early the next morning, the wife came and pulled the children out of bed. She gave them each a little piece of bread, less than before, and on the way to the wood, Hansel crumbled the bread in his pocket, and often stopped to throw a crumb on the ground. Hansel, what are you stopping behind and standing and staring for?" said the father. "I am looking for my little pigeon sitting on the roof, to say goodbye to me," answered Hansel. "You fool," said the wife. "There is no pigeon, but the morning sun shining on the chimney pots." Hansel went on as before, and strewed breadcrumbs all along the road. The woman led the children far into the wood, where they had never been before in all their lives, and again there was a large fire made, and the mother said, Sit still there, you children, and when you are tired, you can go to sleep. We are going into the forest to cut wood, and in the evening, when we are ready to go home, we will come and fetch you."
So when noon came, Gretel shared her bread with Hansel, who had strewed his... I'm trying not to sneeze. I couldn't help it, I sneezed. So, so when noon came, Gretel shared her bread with Hansel, who had strewed his along the road. Then they went to sleep, and the evening passed, and no one came for the poor children. When they awoke, it was dark, and Hansel comforted his little sister, and said, "Wait a little, Gretel, until the moon gets up. Then we shall be able to see the way home by the crumbs of bread that I have scattered along it." And Hansel really pulling through. Like, he's really like best older brother, I guess. So when the moon rose, they got up, but they could find no crumbs of bread, for the birds of the woods and the fields had come and picked them up. Hansel thought they might find the way all the same, but they could not. They went on all that night, and the next day from the morning until the evening. But they could not find the way out of the wood, and they were very hungry, for they had nothing to eat but the few berries they could pick up. And when they went, hello? And when they were so tired that they could no longer drag themselves along, they lay down under a tree and fell asleep. I don't know what just happened. It was now the third morning since they had left their father's house. They were always trying to get back to it. But instead of that, they only found themselves farther in the wood. And if help had not soon come, they would have been starved. About noon, they saw a pretty snow-white bird sitting on a bough and singing so sweetly that they stopped to listen. And when he had finished, the bird spread his wings and flew before them. And they followed after him until they came to a little house, and the bird perched on the roof. And when they came nearer, they saw that the house was built of bread and roofed with cakes, and the window was of transparent sugar. "We will have some of this," said Hansel, "and make a fine meal. I will eat a piece of the roof. Gretel, and you can have some of the window that will taste sweet." So Hansel reached up and broke off a bit of the roof, just to see how it tasted, and Gretel stood by the window and gnawed at it. Then they heard a thin voice call from inside. "Nibble, nibble like a mouse. Who is nibbling at my house?" And the children answered, "Never mind. It is the wind." And they went on eating, never disturbing themselves. Hansel, who found that the roof tasted very nice, took down a great piece of it and Gretel pulled out a large round window pane and sat her down and began upon it. Then the door opened, and an aged woman came out, leaning upon a crutch. Hansel and Gretel felt very frightened, and let fall what they had in their hands. The old woman, however, nodded her head and said, "Ah, my dear children, how come you here? You must come indoors and stay with me. You will be no trouble." So she took them each by the hand and led them into her little house. And there they found a good meal laid out, of milk and pancakes, with sugar, apples, and nuts. After that she showed them 2 little white beds, and Hansel and Gretel laid themselves down on them, and thought they were in heaven. The old woman, although her behavior was so kind, was a wicked witch who lay in wait for children, and had built the little house on purpose to entice them. When they were once inside, she used to kill them, cook them, and eat them. Sorry, reloading the page. And then it was a feast day with her. The witch's eyes were red, and she could not see very far, but she had a keen scent, like the beasts, and knew very well when human creatures were near. When she knew that Hansel and Gretel were coming, she gave a spiteful laugh and said triumphantly, "I have them, and they shall not escape me." Early in the morning, before the children were awake, she got up to look at them, and as they lay sleeping so peacefully, with round rosy cheeks, she said to herself, "What a fine feast I shall have." Then she grasped Hansel with her withered hand and led him into a little stable and shut him up behind a grating. And call and scream as he might, it was no good. Then she went back to Gretel and shook her, crying. Kage. Just go to McDonald's. Holy shit. Oh my god. I don't know, that made me laugh so hard. Hold on. Oh my god. I deliver and everything. Yeah, just get DoorDash, idiot. Forehead. Get DoorDash forehead. Anyway, where was I? Then she went back to Gretel and shook her, crying, "Get up, lazy bones, fetch water and cook something nice for your brother. He is outside in the stable and must be fattened up. And when he was fat enough, I will eat him. And when he is fat enough, I will eat him." Gretel began to weep bitterly, but it was of no use. She had to do what the wicked witch bade her. And so the best kind of victuals was cooked for poor Hansel, while Gretel got nothing but crab shells. Ooh. Each morning, Each morning, the old woman visited the little stable and cried, "Hansel, stretch out your finger, that I may tell if you will soon be fat enough." Hansel, however, used to hold out a little bone, and the old woman, who had weak eyes, could not see what it was, and supposed it to be Hansel's finger. Wondered very much that it was not getting fatter. When 4 weeks had passed and Hansel seemed to remain so thin, she lost patience and could wait no longer. "Now then, Gretel," cried she to the little girl, "be quick and draw water. Be Hansel fat or be he lean, tomorrow I must kill and cook him." Oh, what a grief for the poor little sister to have to fetch water, and how the tears flowed down over her cheeks. "Dear God, pray help us," cried she. "If we had been devoured by wild beasts in the wood, at least we should have died together." "Spare me your lamentations," said the old woman. "They are of no avail." Early next morning, Gretel had to get up, make the fire, and fill the kettle. "First we will do the baking," said the old woman. "I knave heated the oven already, and kneaded the dough." She pushed poor Gretel towards the oven, out of which the flames were already shining. "Creep in," said the witch, "and see if it is properly hot, so that the bread may be baked." And Gretel once in, she meant to shut the door upon her and let her be baked, and then she would have eaten her. But Gretel perceived her intention and said, "I do not know how to do it. How shall I get in?" "Stupid goose," said the old woman. "The opening is big enough. Do you see? I could get in myself." And she stooped down and put her head in the oven's mouth. Then Gretel gave her a push, so that she went in farther, and she shut the iron door upon her and put up the bar. Oh, how frighteningly she howled! But Gretel ran away and left the wicked witch to burn miserably. Let's fucking go. Gretel went to Hansel, opened the stable door, and cried, "Hansel, we are free! The old witch is dead!" What a dumb old lady. Then out flew Hansel like a bird from its cage as soon as the door is opened. How rejoiced they both were. How they fell each on the other's neck and danced about and kissed each other. And as they had nothing more to fear, they went all over the old witch's house, and in every corner there stood chests of pearls and precious stones. "This is something better than flint stones," said Hansel, as he filled his pockets, and Gretel, thinking she also would like to carry something home with her, filled her apron. I think they mean like kissed on the cheek and like, like whatever. "Now away we go," said Hansel. If we only can get out of the witch's wood." When they had journeyed a few hours, they came to a great piece of water. We can never get across this," said Hansel. "I see no stepping stones and no bridge." Fishy, hello, welcome in. We're just finishing up the final story of tonight. And if there is no boat either, said Gretel. Wait, and there is no boat either, said Gretel. But here comes a white duck. If I ask her, she will help us over. So she cried, Duck, duck! Here we stand, Hansel and Gretel on the land. Stepping stones and bridge we lack. Carry us over on your nice white back. Why did no bars? Damn, Gretel. And the duck came accordingly, and Hansel got upon her, and told his sister to come too. No, answered Gretel, that would be too hard upon the duck. We can go separately, one after the other. And that was how it was managed. And after that, they went on happily until they came to the wood. And the way grew more and more familiar, till at last they saw in the distance their father's house. Then they ran till they came upon to it, rushed in at the door, and fell on their father's neck. The man had not had a quiet hour since he left his children in the wood. But the wife was dead. And when Gretel opened her apron, the pearls and precious stones were scattered all over the room. And Hansel took one handful after another out of his pocket. Then was all to care at the end. And they lived in great joy together. Why do they... Okay, so the story's over, but they end it like this. Are you ready for this? It's like the narrator saying, My tale is done. There runs a mouse. Whosoever catches it may take himself a big fur cap out of it. Like, what the fuck? Okay, that's like the last sentence. But anyways, that's it. That's the story of Hansel and Gretel. Their dad doesn't deserve to live with them. I think they should fucking kill and eat the dad, but that's just me. Alright. Everybody. I think I'm gonna go. I have to get up early tomorrow. I have a meeting with that job. I think it's the final meeting, question mark, just to get some information and stuff in order. So I have to be there in the morning. But I appreciate everybody stopping by. I appreciate everybody being here. Sorry, today was so scuffed. But I had fun nonetheless. I hope you had fun. I hope you were able to relax and chill and yeah. Tomorrow, I'm going to be playing Control. I said I was going to be doing Halo, but honestly, I don't have the time. I'm gonna do Control. I said 9, I think, originally, but I have to change it to 5 o'clock p.m. EST, if that's cool. So, the same time that we did Titanfall and all that today. So, that's the plan, because I'm going to eat dinner with some family tomorrow, and I won't be able to do the 9 o'clock thing, so hopefully you're all set with that. And I'll let y'all know how that meeting goes and all that. So, alrighty, everybody. Let's send you over to somebody. Let me see who is streaming. Let's see who is streaming. Oh yeah, that new Mortal Kombat game is out, but that's not a chill game. For 2 seconds I thought Irie was live, but it was just her VOD. Let's raid into this person. They're pushing for 100 followers. They're playing Pokemon Fire Red. I don't really know them, but I just look at the home page and see who's playing what. So they're pushing for 100. They're playing some Pokemon. Why not raid them? Good night, Fishy. Thank you for stopping by. Always appreciate you. Alright, so if we meteor shower, auto, what's her name? Or what's their pronouns? It doesn't say. But yes, Auto Whale, that is their name. Okay, I guess not. Meteor shower, auto. Is it the at? Okay, there we go. And remember, just do this, just say this in chat. Say this, and that's all. Okay, everybody. Thank you for stopping by. I'll see you later. Okay, good night. Good night. Good night. Appreciate you.